You know, it's actually really good news though for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Apparently, Willian wants to leave, and we're gonna get a bid from an
hmm
MLS club.
Yeah. I also saw Willian said something to the Brazilian press that he screwed up by insisting on a longer contract over returning to Chelsea. So he basically is like forcing his way out now too.
I mean, that works for
Good
me.
for you.
Like, yeah,
You guys are like,
I thought we were
hey,
gonna eat
Willian, you
that
didn't need to
mistake for
force your way out,
years.
buddy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
We
I
were gonna
thought.
force you out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's just like I was very worried about eating that mistake for 3 years.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Cannons and Lions. It is Monday, May 17th, and we are coming to you after a miserable week for the Chelsea Lions, losing the Women's Champions League final 4-0, losing the FA Cup, and before that, losing to the FA's Cucks. So I'm here
What
with
is that
George.
supposed to mean?
And we're going to start off with none other than that Chelsea-Arsenal game that ended Chelsea 0, Arsenal 1. This is your trophy for the year, isn't it, George?
I mean, doing the double over Chelsea, I don't think that's happened since I don't think that's happened in a long, long time. The last time we beat you at Stamford Bridge was like at the beginning of this decade. So, uh, yeah, you know, it's a little cup in the way. We'll put it right next to our relegating Sam Allardyce trophy and our prospective maybe St. Tottering's Day trophy. So we have quite the little like novelty trophy cabinet building for this year.
Yeah, this one might have been the single most frustrating game of the year from a Chelsea perspective. I think it's hard to argue against this one. I mean, the one goal came from Emile Smith Rowe after Jorginho effectively scored an own goal,
Mm-hmm.
passing it so far wide of Kepa and into the middle of the net that Kepa, and I think it bears saying this was 0% Kepa's fault. This was a
Yeah.
defensive error that he actually almost kind of staved off for a second there. Um,
Until if we didn't score, it would have been an indirect free kick from the 6 yard line. So
right. That's true. But he had to dive across the net to handball as it would have been the ball off the line. It wouldn't have been a red card or a penalty for an intentional handball and an intentional back pass. But as you say, it would have been an indirect kick for using a hand to prevent a goal off a back pass. Um, and wow. The rebound was picked up by Arsenal, passed across to Emile Smith Rowe, who tapped it home into a wide open net with Kepa taken out of the picture, having sprawled out in a full dive to keep the ball out of the net in the first place.
mm-hmm.
Um,
He
prior to
almost
that
missed it too.
chance,
He almost missed that chance too. I mean, it kind
that would have been something if he had fucked that one up.
yeah, well, yeah, going across his body, far post, you know, posting in, and just the way that I saw him hit it, it kind of came off his plant foot a little bit.
Yeah, so he did kind of scuff it. Like he hit it, as you said, he hit it off his plant foot, which then deflected it somehow into the side netting instead of straight down the middle. So he did almost screw it up. It's true. But just around prior to that chance, that the only goal of the game, Chelsea had hit the bar on a Havertz one-on-one with the keeper, then proceeded to hit the bar twice more after Havertz first hit the bar and then Giroud pulled the rebound down. Well, actually, Leno saved it onto the bar, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
And then Giroud immediately pulled the rebound down and shot it back onto the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of is the story of this game. By XG, Chelsea ended with an XG of 1.6 to Arsenal's 0.9, just over 0.8 of which come from the Emile Smith Rowe tap-in.
Yep.
Um, this one sucked to watch as a Chelsea fan. We dominated every aspect of this game except for the scoreline, and we lost to a team virtually with nothing left to play for this season in a way that now jeopardizes our chances of finishing top four for the season. This was about as bad as things could have gone, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, look, basically we've managed to do the double, we meaning Arsenal, over Chelsea this year by playing pretty much the same tactics. We executed it much better in the first iteration of this game. Now it does help when Frank Lampard is the manager and not Thomas Tuchel for that matter. But there was some bright spots in the game for us. Like Chelsea produced a lot of really quality chances. Obviously, the fact that we were able to hang on, we kept digging in, we kept fighting, especially in a gritty game like that. I'm not gonna say that we played well because, like, we did enough in this game defensively. It's just that under normal circumstances, you guys would have put one or two of those away, and we just wouldn't have had enough chances to make it up. I
Right,
guess.
and I also think under normal circumstances, we would have had a clean sheet there. I think that mistake was, there are some kinds of mistakes that result from good pressing by the opposition team. That was not a result of pressing. I don't know what happened there. Jorginho basically just took a shot on his far corner.
Yeah. What was the XG on that, by the way?
That was the god damn it.
That was at least a 0.6.
That's true. He probably came closer to scoring a goal than any other Chelsea player this match. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, XG is not the end all be all, as we'll get to in the next game Chelsea played. But I think in this case, it actually sort of accurately reflects what was going on, which is outside of that chance, Arsenal did have some shots, but they were fairly optimistic, being run into positions that they had no choice but to take a shot from a bad position type chances. And Jesus Christ, I mean, like you said, in the first game, at least you could say that we did not play well enough to win. In this game, the defense was well organized. The offense actually generated a few chances. None of them were put away. And then the defense, basically by the virtue of one man's madness, conceded a goal without being pressured into it whatsoever, pretty much. So this one really, really stings in that respect, because the ramifications of that loss could be devastating for Chelsea. Had Chelsea won that game, our top 4 spot would pretty much be as good as locked up.
Yeah. And especially considering, the heroics of Liverpool in the past 2 games, winning away at Old Trafford and also coming back to win against West Brom. It puts the final position, well, honestly, like from 3rd to 5th, really up in the air, and it's made it like a really contentious tie with 2 games to go.
Right, and look, and Liverpool has had the luxury of not having to juggle the FA Cup next to the Champions League, next to the league as well. So it's no longer a guarantee that Chelsea is going to find themselves in the Champions League next year, which, if that were to be the case, mere weeks after Chelsea fans were dreaming of finishing 3rd, possibly even 2nd in some cases, although likely 3rd, winning the Champions League and winning the FA Cup, we could find ourselves finishing 5th without winning a single trophy. And that would be quite the reversal. Now, I have seen some people speculating that if that were to happen, Thomas Tuchel should get the sack. That I find to be a complete joke.
Yeah, that's pretty laughable, to be honest.
Were that to happen, the failure of Chelsea to lock up that top 4 spot would largely be due to their points prior to Thomas Tuchel's takeover. It would be really hard to, I mean, I think since Tuchel came in, Chelsea is the 2nd team in the Tuchel table, kind of, of points acquired since he came in. So, yeah, I mean, that would be an absurd. I don't think there's any way the board does that. I think that's more just reactionary crap. But it would be quite the reversal of fortunes that we were experiencing just a matter of weeks ago.
I mean, I don't think you could argue that you guys would have even gotten past Porto if Lampard would have been the manager for that.
No, and I mean, yeah,
obviously anything can happen.
Prior to drawing Porto, we played Atletico, so I think that's when we probably would have gone out.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes. I don't think you guys would have gotten past Atletico under Frank Lampard. That's for sure.
Right. So Look, at the time Thomas Tuchel took over, we were 1 point ahead of you guys.
Yeah.
You can't say that it's his fault that we're going to miss the Champions League if that ends up happening.
Yeah.
That being said, this does mean that Chelsea need to, in all likelihood, get results possibly against both of their remaining two opponents, which includes a game against Leicester next weekend. Or actually, I think that's midweek. That's a must win, I would say.
Mhm.
And speaking of Chelsea against Leicester, Chelsea played Leicester this midweek, and it did not go well either. This one
Yes.
ended 1-0. Leicester lift the FA Cup over Chelsea. Um, the yeah, I mean, the lone goal of this one was an absolute stunner from Yuri Tillemans, a
Power through it,
30-yard
Milton. Power
banger.
through it. Power through it. You got this. Power through it.
Once again, Chelsea lead by about half a goal on XG in this one. Now, contrary to that first game, I will say I think this one is where XG is a bit deceptive.
Mhm.
I actually think Leicester were deserving winners of this game. I think, I mean, the fact that Chelsea had a high XG or higher XG doesn't really tell the full story in this one, especially because one of those missed chances was not Chelsea just blowing a missed chance. It was an incredible reaction save from
Mhm.
Schmeichel that I think deserves all the credit in the world. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, you wouldn't have gotten that. No, that was a great goalkeeper making a great save.
Yeah.
And that team deserves the credit of that goalie's ability to make that save.
Yeah.
And look, Tillman's goal, the XG on that, I'm sure is like 0.01 or something like that. But
Mhm.
that was an incredible strike. And again, he deserves the credit for that one. The other thing is with Chelsea's high XG, I think a lot of it had to have come from that Mason Mount chance, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And again, that was just a wonderful save from Schmeichel. On the whole, Chelsea did not threaten all that much until I would say the final sort of 15, 20 minutes when they really made a push for it.
Mhm.
And throughout the game, Leicester just looked like the more dangerous team. The big exception to that, of course, is that Ben Chilwell put the ball in the back of the net just prior to the 90th minute.
Yeah.
And that one was ruled out for offside because once again, a portion of a player's arm, it seems, was offside.
Yeah.
Now, I, it's tough to tell with the pictures that I've looked at exactly how much of Chilwell's arm was offside. And I do understand that the shoulder, for example, if that's offside, that is for sure offside according to the way the rule is written right now.
Mhm.
But once again, it seems like one of these situations where had he scored with the part of his body that was ruled offside, I bet it would have not been given for a handball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there needs to be some, I don't know. Maybe it is a correct call. I don't even know what the answer is here. But this
It
rule
feels unjust. It
busted.
feels unjust.
Right. This rule was not invented to track the millimeters of players' arms when they lean, but their feet are more than. In fact, his feet were further behind than the defender's feet, and it was the lean and position of his arm pointing and calling for the pass that made him offside. So
Yeah.
I really think this is one of these goals, especially that shows there should be some form of, I don't know, Arsene Wenger's daylight rule or something like that just feels more in line with the spirit of this game. And not only is this me being salty for having lost what I had previously called the most important tournament of them all, but now think is a joke and
And
doesn't matter.
also previously
Usually said was a
called
joke.
the joke.
I have reversed on my reversal. But I think one of the things that goal really showed is there is a price to VAR of how the emotional release of scoring a goal that accompanies soccer has now sort of been taken away from the sport in these situations where
Yeah.
you see these images and you cheer, you have to stop cheering to see if VAR is checking it. Then they put an image up that you can see. and you immediately go, this is entirely unclear.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
somehow you know it's going to exactly be ruled in the way that you think it shouldn't be or
yeah.
feels wrong. And it just seems like they should have something in the rules so that the instances where VAR needs to come into play are not as frequent, because it does detract from the general flow of the game when we're checking portions of players' arms for offsides, even when we acknowledge that that basically had no bearing on the result of the outcome of the play.
Yeah, look, you're preaching to the choir here, because we have had, the way that I put it to you when we were talking in messages over this week was that you guys managed to get Arsenal multiple times this week, which is one, lose a game that you deserve to win. Two, you get a goal called back off of VAR for a very questionable, in the spirit of the rule, manner. And yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. Like we could have had a bunch more points. We might even be in the race for top four had certain things been called not in that way this season, you know. So you're preaching to the choir here, man. I understand the frustration. That being said, I have to say I do like us being the only London team that is dominating this competition. And the fact that Wolves have, or not Wolves, sorry, Leicester is has won it. It gives a little bit more spice to the competition, that, you know, there are more multiple winners, and it's always nice to see a team, and especially one that, look, I've waxed lyrical about how Leicester is owned, win the title, especially after having their league success, following it up and transferring that rise and then fall back to rising again into another piece of silverware, and especially to see their owner like celebrating on the field with them. And as an Arsenal fan, you just look at that and you just say, you know, especially with us having such problems with
See,
ours, you know,
you
it's
say
a great
that,
story.
but if Stan Kroenke were to show up to celebrate an FA Cup with Arsenal, he'd come out in full LA Rams gear with a Super Bowl trophy in his hand and go, "Oh fuck, wrong shit."
Yeah, but that won't
it
happen
would,
either. So
yeah, it'd be even worse than you feared if he were to show up. So
big foam finger saying
yeah,
number one, you know.
LA Rams geared head to toe. Yeah. Um.
Mm,
Yeah. No. Look. I mean, like I said, did this one leave a bad taste in your mouth as well, just like that Arsenal game? Yes, but at the same time, I do recognize as a Chelsea fan, I think Leicester were deserving winners of that game, unlike that fucking game before it.
mm,
And the reality is, look, if you could tell me, especially after losing that game to Arsenal, you're going to give away the FA Cup, but you're going to win out the rest of your Premier League games, I would have taken that trade.
yeah.
The reality is, I pretended to think the FA Cup was a big deal. It's a nice thing to add. I think for a team like Leicester, it is more important, but
Yeah,
I'd
look,
rather
I'll
I'd
give you
rather
that.
be in the Champions League next year than win the FA Cup. So if we can win against Leicester and then win our last game of the season, I will be very quick to forget the fact that Leicester beat us in the FA Cup final.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And you know, we'll just have to wait until next year where maybe you guys make it to a final, and then you change your tune again. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you know what? The thing is, I think at the time when I said that, it was really the only thing I thought we had any hope of winning.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, that's when the FA Cup is fun, right? It's not bad. It's not a completely unimportant competition. But the thing I'll always point to when I try to explain what I think of it is, when you look at Jurgen Klopp's attitude towards both cup competitions in England throughout that run of incredible Liverpool greatness, where he essentially threw them both into the trash from day one and said, "We are putting all our eggs into Europe and the Premier League. There are too many games in England to maintain all these things.
Hmm.
Putting the youth team out in the cup competitions and get mad at me if you don't like it," right?
I mean, look, he does have a point. There's too many fixtures. I will
That's
agree with
just
him on
it,
that.
right? And it
Wh-
does kind of, the fact that there's two cup competitions has devalued both of them at the end of the day to some degree.
Yeah, like I've said multiple times, I think that there should only be the FA Cup in England. I don't think there should be a League Cup. Like for perhaps lower down the league tables, if you have like a league cup for like lower down the tables, I think
Which
that'll
they
be very
have, the
beneficial.
John Stones paint
Yeah, or
trophy
the
or whatever it's
checker
called.
trade, isn't it? Or
That one, yeah.
they might have changed
Changed the
sponsors.
name or something, yeah.
Yeah, but that cup is like that. I think that's a very good thing for lower league football to be
Right,
able to
right.
have. But
I
definitely for the
agree.
Premier League and the top competitors, having the FA Cup, I think only would be really, really good. On top of that, I think that there should be maybe something brought in where that winner of the FA Cup might. For the moment, it gives a Europa League spot. I think that the importance of that would be increased if they get rid of the League Cup. They maybe put in the winner of the FA Cup plays say
The
fourth
fourth place
place
team or something,
to
yeah.
get that berth in the Champions League. I think that would add a lot more value and
Yeah,
spice to the
look, that's
competition.
yeah, or have a tournament called the Super Cup, which is the fourth place team against the winner of the FA Cup or something for the final Champions League spot. That makes sense.
That's what I'm proposing. Like I think that would
That
put a
would be
lot
fun.
more. I think that would be really fun too. And that also, like if we're looking at all
Of
sides of
course,
it,
if you
right?
come
Like it'd be
fourth
fun.
and win the FA Cup, then you just
Then you
get the
just get it.
spot and
Yeah,
play
yeah, yeah.
someone in a friendly.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think that'd be really fun. And it's giving broadcasters what they want. That's one extra very, very at stake game that feels much more natural than other sort of.
right. And then you wouldn't see a team throw the FA Cup ever again.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what the Premier League in the end wants. That's what the FA wants. That's what
Right. Now, of course, this
broadcasters
will never
want.
happen because ultimately they've locked in TV deals and stuff like that for what it used to be the League Cup. Now is, I don't know what it's called anymore. The Carabao
Uh
Cup.
Carabao Cup. Yes, Carabao Cup.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that would make it more interesting. I agree with you there for sure. Yeah, I mean, the last thing I'll say on this fixture is, well, actually, I guess the two last things I'll say is this is maybe the first time I've sort of thought Thomas Tuchel kind of got it tactically wrong a little bit in the Leicester game. I'll say that. Specifically, he played Reece James at center back and as Piliqueta at right wing back.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea behind that was to inject some pace into the back three to deal with Iheanacho and Vardy. The problem with that is that it really just seemed like Chelsea missed Reece James's ability to get forward out of the right wing back slot and create chances. And it really did seem for a long part of the game like Chelsea's issues came with creating chances and really moving the ball into dangerous positions
Mm-hmm.
versus shutting down Vardy and Iheanacho, who had a couple chances here and there. But again, the deciding factor was a banger from distance. Now, the part that I'll never know is how much of that sort of shutting down of Iheanacho and Vardy was due to the fact that Reece James was at center back. There were a few times, especially where he was able to track down Vardy or keep up with him. But that being said, I'm not convinced that Azpilicueta wouldn't have been able to do a semi-effective job, especially with help from Reece James on that side.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, you give Thomas Tuchel the benefit of the doubt on a lot of stuff, but that one especially, and with the benefit of hindsight, seemed puzzling to me.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, in terms of what this says about Chelsea's game against Leicester coming up, is it weird that this doesn't make me think we're more likely to lose to them? It's not like they came out and showed that they're capable of dominating us.
Mm-hmm.
Look, as much as Tielemans deserves credit for that shot, I don't think it's repeatable. I think the Schmeichel
Yeah.
save is an indication of how good a keeper he is. Is it fully repeatable? No, but it's sort he could make that kind of save again. Tielemans is not scoring that shot against. Now I say that, and everything I say about Chelsea, the opposite happens. So I just guaranteed Tielemans is going to score from halfway against us or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would say that at least this game doesn't tell me that we're going to be completely ineffective going up against Leicester in our next match.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with you on that as well. And look, as you said before with the Arsenal game, that was far from an example of you guys getting outplayed. And same in the Leicester thing, you guys weren't completely outplayed, you guys weren't dominated. I'm sure it might rattle a few sort of like confidences going into the Champions League final. Obviously, like before this week, you guys made it to Champions League final. You guys beat City like
Twice in a small,
twice.
short period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys were, I'm sure the fan base was very much running hot on confidence,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe this could be a good thing in the end for you guys. Not maybe going into that game fully confident, if that makes sense. I think
Right.
having sort of like an underdogish mentality against City and
Right.
like a
It
lot
could
more
prove
fight, it could
beneficial.
prove beneficial. But obviously this is
Right.
speculation and everything. And
Right.
let
And
me
the flip
also add
side
the
of that.
caveat that I hope City beat you guys in the Champions League final, because I also called the fact that City was going to win the Champions League final. So
Yeah, you did. Um, yeah, and I think I had Bayern Munich beating Chelsea in the Champions League final. So at least that one's not going to happen.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but look, I guess the only thing that's really concerning is that sometimes in football, offense does appear to be a little streaky with some teams where the chance generation is there, but the rate of finishing those chances sort of comes in bunches at times.
Hmm.
Um, is there the thing that's concerning, if anything, is there's just an indication that again, Chelsea don't have too many players who rarely spurn chances. They have lots of players who create chances in volumes. Um, will that necessary? I mean, the worry is just this is a bad time for goals to go missing. Will it
Yeah.
continue? Who knows? It's hard to say. The good side is we didn't, as you said, we weren't outplayed particularly in either game, so at least it's not a whole failure of the team as a whole. But look, that the offense going missing is a little bit concerning, to
Hmm.
say the least. Why don't we wrap up our discussion of this miserable week for Chelsea by just giving one final shout out to another Chelsea disaster.
Hmm.
The Women's Champions League final was played on Sunday. Chelsea losing 4-0 to Barcelona, despite being, I think, the heavy favorites, definitely the favorites. I think, depending on who you ask, the heavy favorites for this match.
Hmm.
The Chelsea women were in a position to do the quintuple had
Yeah.
they won this. Not only that, I'm going to briefly check this, but I believe this would have been the first time that the same club had won the men's and women's Champions League in the same year, had Chelsea won both.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and, sort of just like Chelsea's dream of possibly winning the double with the FA Cup, or the Cup double, I should say.
Hmm.
This one sort of went up in flames in spectacular fashion. The first goal was a horrific own goal off a clearance. The second goal was sort of equally terrible. A penalty was conceded in the second one. And then after that, things just sort of continued to fall apart repeatedly for Chelsea.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, just misery on misery for the Blues. So
Mm. And just
just,
adding to the list of things you getting Arsenal, this is also very Arsenal getting demolished by Barcelona. So
in the Champions League. Yeah,
in the
that's right.
Champions League.
That's right. So, what can you say? I mean, I'd like to give some credit to the women's team. They were a wagon this year. They crushed everyone. They dominated the Super League. They arguably have, I think, two of the three best women's players in the world on their roster right now, in Pernille Harder and Sam Kerr.
Hmm.
Um, arguably the best women's defender in the world, and Magda Eriksson on their roster as well. So they are not short of talent, that's for sure. But yeah, it was that week for Chelsea as a club. So
Hmm.
shout out to them, valiant effort, but unfortunately it was not to be. So why don't we move on from this disgraceful week now and go on to the DDA Drogba. It is a fucking disgrace of the week award. And no, it is not Chelsea. It was a bad week, but bad is not necessarily disgraceful in our eyes
Yes,
here at Cannons and Lions. It's just bad.
absolutely.
So what is disgraceful? Well, this week we're doing away with nominees and we're getting straight to our winner. It is DDA, the disgrace Deschamps.
Yep.
How could that be without any international games of note? Well, it was recently announced that Aymeric Laporte will be called up to the Spanish national team, where he will play in the Euro Cup this summer. Of course, that is only possible because Laporte has never been called up for a cap with the French senior national side. And that, of course, is the case because Didier Deschamps has insisted on publicly humiliating Aymeric Laporte with his squad selection
Yeah.
for about 4 years now. Players selected ahead of Laporte include Adel Rami during the 2016 World Cup,
Mm-hmm.
and more recently, Clément Lenglet repeatedly as the left-sided center back, including during last season when Laporte was probably the third or second best center back in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but with Samuel Umtiti gone, France's natural, let's call it, starting left-sided center back, or at least the one that they won the World Cup with, who used to partner Varane as the starting two, is no longer part of the squad.
Mm-hmm.
So there actually is a void to fill on the left side. Yes, France have options on that side. They have Upamecano, Lenglet, as mentioned before, but I just don't think there's an argument that Clément Lenglet is a better center back, especially left-sided center back than Laporte. I just
Yeah.
think that's the only time Lenglet is better than Laporte is when Laporte has blown his knee out and isn't available for selection.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
would agree with you on that.
the other thing is there's a good shot that this makes Spain's defense about twice as good for
Yeah.
the Euro Cup. He probably now immediately comes in as the best center back at their disposal, I would think.
Yep. I would agree.
Now, I know Ramos plays on the left side for Real Madrid as well, but I'd expect him to shift over to the right.
Mm-hmm.
He is right-footed, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
And I basically think through Didier Deschamps' inexplicable refusal to select a deserving player for
Mm-hmm.
years on end, he has essentially catered to one of his strongest rivals going into this tournament, and essentially provided that their best defender now.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. There could be a sort of Wilfred Zaha, David Moyes, or Martinelli Arteta situation going on here. It's it to me, it's completely inexplicable that he hasn't received a single call up. Now, obviously, you never know what could be happening behind the scenes. Maybe, Didier Deschamps had called Aymeric Laporte into his office, and Aymeric Laporte gave him a nice hijo de puta as soon as he got in there, and so he's like, "Well, I'm not selecting this guy," But to all
Yeah,
our
look, as far as we
observations, it's
know, he
like,
hasn't filmed Mathieu Valbuena have sex with anyone, so
yeah,
he's doing better than some other members of the squad.
that's very true. That's very true. Allegedly. Yeah, but I mean, you have to ask questions of Deschamps. That's a huge, huge player that is still very young and at a very dominant club that just isn't, for some reason, getting a spot, which I think will end up being a pretty large mistake. Maybe won't be as present in this Euros, and like we said, France is deep at center back. That is arguably
Even at the left
positioned.
side, yeah.
Yeah, that's arguably the position where they are the deepest in. Um, so, but I just
Right.
don't
This
think you
isn't
can
this
ever
isn't
make
so
an
much in
excuse for not taking an extremely competent and more than competent left-sided defender.
right. And look, it's not so much an issue that France won't be able to call in a really class center back. The other thing is, in recent years, I think you can make the case that Upamecano has surpassed Laporte, for example, as in the pecking order of left-sided center backs.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, Lucas Hernandez is going to be playing center back if Ferland Mendy starts at left back for France now. So
Yeah.
they've got more options than ever at the position. But part of it is that there just have been long periods where Clément Lenglet was repeatedly selected over this guy. And
Yeah.
that's, in my mind, just completely indefensible,
Yeah.
completely not based on merit whatsoever. And it was especially an issue because all you had to do, and I hate to say this cynically, but all you had to do was hand him a few caps to tie him down,
Yeah.
right? You essentially threw whatever vendetta you hold against this guy or whatever weird footballing bias you have against his style of play, whatever the hell that would be,
Yeah.
has somehow allowed him to basically fall directly into Spain's hands in a way that, look, he could be a decisive player for them as well. He's incredibly good in the air, he's incredibly good on the ball, and he's good at reading the game. And
Yeah.
he's going to be playing next to Sergio Ramos. They'll have a complete force in the air on every set piece.
Yeah. No, 100%. And this is, since Spain's heyday, this is probably the best defender in the prime of his career that they've had.
Yeah, since the sort of like Puyol Ramos
Yeah, yeah,
combo,
yeah.
or
And
Puyol
like
Piqué
obviously
Ramos
Ramos was
prime.
still remaining strong through the times where they weren't as good, but Spain never has a problem controlling the ball, having possession, uh, having skilled midfielders. That's never been an issue with Spain, even before they were winning World Cups. It's always been questions about defense, more or less, and in other cases like striker. But I this is just adding something that they've really been lacking in their national team
Right,
for.
especially since PK has been a reliable defensive option. He sort of brings some of the creativity PK brings without some of PK's more recent defensive frailties.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Completely.
So why don't we move from all the disgraceful things this week into the banger of the week? Because this week was a banger of bangers.
Yes, there were some awesome goals this week. Starting off from the third nominee, which is, every single time that you have a goalkeeper score a goal, let alone a really striker-esque header into the top corner, you have to give it up. So Allison's goal against West Brom in the last minutes of the game to really put a shot in the arm of Liverpool's top four chances in qualifying for Champions League. That's got to be such a great feeling where the goal means a lot, as it just did. And especially like the class of the header, that is something that is a header that I have seen Olivier Giroud both hit and miss multiple times. That is a very much a striker's moment, and he comes in pretty well unmarked, kind of at the front corner of the six, maybe a little bit further out, and he just directs that perfectly in the top corner. Hats off to Allison. And once again, always special when a goalkeeper scores. So the next two goals are very close, and one is better for one reason, the other better for the other reason. I've decided to go for pure aesthetics in selecting the winner. So the runner up is Yuri Tielemans with his goal against Chelsea to win the FA Cup with an unbelievable blast from outside the box, landing and netting in the top corner. For the occasion, obviously an extremely momentous goal, very nice goal as well. I definitely give the tip of my hat to Yuri Tielemans on that one. But the winner, for the sheer aesthetic pleasure, the acrobatics involved in it, has to be Ferran Torres and his back heel flick, buck heel goal.
I
It
don't
is
even know what you call it. It's kind of like a back heel flick volley.
Yeah, but it was just perfectly executed, and you saw that is what he was going for. He maybe not have like known exactly the trajectory that he was trying to do, but it was perfectly arced over the goalkeeper, and just an incredible finish. I think the only other time that I've seen a goal like that was this year in the lower leagues. I think it was Notts County that scored that ridiculous like buck heel, back heel goal. But to do it in the Premier League, and especially for a guy that, look, he landed himself a hat trick in that game, so hats off to him. Um, Obviously in that game too, Joe Willock scoring his obligatory Newcastle goal, but it's all props to Ferran Torres. That is an outstanding goal and is going to be right up there for goal of the season. Unfortunately, with Lamella's goal against us, but that is the winner for this week.
Yeah, that's
And it's
true.
what it's gonna be. It's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be Lamella's Rabona. It's gonna be Ferran Torres Buckheel, and then it's gonna be oh, I know exactly which goal I'm thinking of. It's
Lingard.
the Lingard flick up and volley into the top corner. That's gonna 100% be that.
Yeah, that's a good shout, I think, for the goals of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Ferran Torres flick was just pure unadulterated technique.
Yeah, that it was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, I've never seen a goal like that before this year. It was the Notts County guy, and then Ferran Torres pulls it off.
I wish he'd run to the corner and done the Giroud celebration.
No. He has to do that next game.
Yeah. After scoring a meaningless goal.
After scoring a goal to tie the game.
Yeah, without running back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our show for this week. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, at least as far as I'm concerned, we'll have some more positive news to report. But that does it for this week. And let's hope this week never happens again. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye now.